It started with something almost too small to notice: a disrupted railway line outside Warsaw, no dramatic flames, no destroyed buildings, just a piece of infrastructure tampered with in the night, forcing trains to stop and passengers to wait in confusion. But Poland did not see confusion. Poland saw a pattern, a familiar signature, a move straight out of Russia's hybrid warfare toolbox. And this time, instead of waiting for explanations, Poland responded as if it had been hit by a strategic weapon. Putin has been searching for leverage for months. His army is bleeding in Ukraine. Ammunition is scarce. Equipment is outdated. Drone strikes keep reaching deeper into Russian territory. The situation at home grows tense. So he looked for an easy target, a low-risk operation, a way to unsettle NATO without opening a real front. That's how two cheap saboteurs ended up trying to ignite a section of the Warsaw-Lublin railway line. The plan was classic Kremlin mischief: cause delays, create panic, slow the flow of Western equipment heading into Ukraine, and test whether NATO's eastern flank would hesitate. Instead, Poland hit the gas. Warsaw announced immediately that the attack was not random, it was not civilian, it was not ordinary. It was an operation linked to the Russian state, carried out through hired proxies, and as soon as Poland used that language, every door opened. Because once an attack is classified as state terrorism, a government can do far more than repair infrastructure. It can dismantle enemy influence. It can rewrite security procedures. It can shut down channels of foreign power on its territory. And that's exactly what Poland did. Russia's consulate in Poznan, a building Moscow depended on for intelligence across Western Poland, was ordered closed. Diplomats expelled, access revoked. But those diplomats were never just diplomats. For years, that consulate had been Russia's most effective listening post, tracking NATO troop movements, identifying U.S. equipment passing through Poland, analyzing train schedules, and mapping the arteries of NATO's logistic network. It was Russia's quiet advantage, and in one afternoon, Poland erased it. This wasn't symbolic, it was crippling. Russia relies on intelligence to compensate for military weakness. Without forward stations, the Kremlin guesses, and guessing is dangerous when your enemies are united. The real shock came when Poland's move triggered an automatic reaction across the Baltic region. Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia synchronized instantly. They tightened border inspections, boosted defensive readiness, shared intelligence, passed new restrictions. It wasn't coordinated by Brussels, it was instinct. Poland moved and the Baltics followed. For Russia, this new level of unity is terrifying because it directly cuts into Russia's most vulnerable point in Europe, Kaliningrad. Kaliningrad has long been painted as Russia's sword pointed at NATO, a Western fortress armed with missiles, naval assets, and surveillance stations. But modern geography has turned that sword into a chain around Moscow's neck. Kaliningrad has no end link to Russia that doesn't pass through NATO territory. And now, with Finland and Sweden joining the alliance, even the sea routes are under NATO oversight. Kaliningrad is exposed on every side, and Poland is applying pressure with the precision of a surgeon. By closing the Poznan consulate, Poland blinded Russia's ability to track what moves through its territory. But that was only the beginning. Warsaw then tightened its border with Belarus, turning crossings into choke points. Truck lines formed overnight. Belarusian drivers slept for days at checkpoints. Russian cargo rotted on the spot. Belarus lost valuable transit income. Russia's workaround import system, used to bypass sanctions, began collapsing under the weight of delays and scrutiny. This wasn't an accident. It was a message. Poland now controls the pace and flow of the region. Operation Horizon intensified the effect. In a stunning display of speed, over 10,000 Polish soldiers were deployed to shield infrastructure across the country. Rail hubs, power stations, fiber optic junctions, bridges, fuel lines. For Russia, that was the moment the door slammed shut. Because their sabotage model depends on gaps, unguarded places, unmonitored locations, vulnerable nodes. Operation Horizon filled those gaps with soldiers, drones, and surveillance. And yet Poland still wasn't done. They announced the Eastern Shield, a massive defensive barrier along the Belarusian frontier, a multi-billion-euro project designed specifically to counter hybrid warfare, not tanks, not jets, hybrid warfare. The kind Russia excels at, or used to. Layers of barriers, sensors, fortified positions, and surveillance systems will soon make the border nearly impenetrable. For Russia and Belarus, this is the beginning of a long winter. For NATO, it is the creation of a fortified wall across the continent's eastern edge. For Kaliningrad, it is suffocation. If Poland and Lithuania ever decide to fully close their borders, Kaliningrad becomes an island surrounded by NATO. And supplying it becomes a nightmare. Slow, expensive, vulnerable to interception, and entirely dependent on the goodwill of countries Russia keeps antagonizing. This is not theoretical, this is the direction everything is moving. The geopolitical shockwaves extend even further. China, Russia's supposed strategic partner, depends on the same rail corridors that Poland is tightening. Goods flowing from China to Europe must move through routes that Poland can slow to a crawl at any moment. The risk is clear. If instability grows, China might pressure Russia privately to calm its aggression. Because to Beijing, delays mean billions lost in trade. Putin is caught between enemies who push back and partners who demand predictability. Inside Russia, the consequences are already felt. Industries experience shortages. Currency pressure intensifies. Towns near Kaliningrad worry about imports running late. Even oligarchs grumble that the cost of moving goods has exploded. Meanwhile, Russia's intelligence agencies scramble to rebuild the networks Poland destroyed. But that is easier said than done. Europe is shutting every window. Every consulate closure becomes a precedent. Every diplomatic restriction becomes a domino. And all because Putin thought sabotaging a railway would make NATO flinch. It backfired spectacularly. Instead of exposing NATO's weakness, he exposed Russia's isolation. Instead of dividing Europe, he united the region's most anti-Kremlin states. Instead of threatening Poland, he forced Poland to reveal how much power it actually holds over Russian logistics, trade routes, border flows, and intelligence access. The truth is now impossible to ignore. Russia no longer controls the tempo of events in Europe. Poland does, the Baltics do, NATO does. Kaliningrad is a symbol of that reversal. A Russian outpost completely dependent on countries that no longer trust Moscow at all. If Putin insists on pushing this game further, he risks turning that region into a stranded relic of a declining empire. Poland has not fired a single missile, yet Russia is hurting more than if they had. And this is only the quiet beginning of something much larger. Before you go, remember we are an independent news channel in a world drowning in corruption. If you want to support real journalism, please like and subscribe to our channel. It really helps.